The child has a lot of things in their brain, a lot of feelings and emotions. If any of these get suppressed, then as you can understand, suppression means that you are pressing down something, which intuitively you could understand leads to depression. The child, in order to, make everybody in the surrounding happy, starts living with it, suppressing those feelings inside him. And these then later manifest as other diseases or complications in life. Autoimmunity being a very, very common disease occurring because of that. You have depression, you have autoimmunity, even cancer may occur because of that.
You kind of beautifully put from a functional medicine perspective that life is a continuum.
Unless and until we go to the root of our problem, I don't think we can actually correct it.
We talk about sleep issues so much, and it somehow becomes one of the biggest questions asked when we talk about health and wellness.
When you get up in the morning and at that time when the sun is just rising, you just sit or stand in front of the sun with the eyes closed. Let the light filter into your eyes, just 20 or 30 seconds. Don't gaze directly at the sun, a little away. And that what it does is, it does away with the nighttime melatonin.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Biohackers Club. Today we are in conversation with Dr. Kohli, who is a very senior cardiac surgeon and a functional medicine expert. This is a conversation you do not want to miss as we explore the deep root causes of health ailments and deep dive into the benefits of therapies like light therapy, water therapy, while talking about our spiritual being and constitution. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi sir, welcome to the Biohackers Club.
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Well, that's mutual.
Thank you. Great. So, when we first met, there's something that you said which was very interesting, and I would love to begin this conversation there. You said we are all energy.
Yeah.
Would love to hear your thoughts on why, what do you think we're all energy?
Well, this stems from two facts. One, from my own experience, my own spiritual experiences. And secondly, from what Einstein said. I can quote him. He said, everything is energy, we are all energy.
Right.
Now, when he's talking about energy, he's of course talking about a lot of physics and a lot of science behind it. But as per my understanding of spirituality, spirituality to my mind means pertaining to the spirit.
Right.
And the spirit, as I understand, is basically just two things, light and sound. Should not even be called two. They're both one. I mean, sound becomes light and light becomes sound. They're both together.
Got it.
So everything stems from that. So if everything is energy, and that is energy because at a very deep level of spirituality, the spirit is not only light, not only is it sound, it is urja, it is shakti, it is love, it is shanti. There are so many other things.
Right.
When we talk of these things, we talk of them as separate entities, but they are not at the deepest level. So all of these are that form of energy coming from the spirit. Therefore, light, energy, sound, shanti, prem, all of these are one and the same things. And because they are all perfusing us, every cell of our body. Therefore, we are being perfused by that supreme energy, all of us. We may not realize that.
True.
But that is a fact. And that sets the tone for everything. Now, scientifically, we know that light sets the tone of the mitochondria.
Right.
Mitochondria are the smallest parts in the cells. There are millions of them, which are important, very important for our health. So when this light perfuses the mitochondria, that sets the tone for the function of the neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are the messengers from different parts of the body, and they are responsible for our chemical and biological energies in the body. That's the reason why I say everything is energy. You could say everything is light also.
This is beautiful. I think it is extremely refreshing to have somebody so senior in the medical field talk about our being from this particular perspective. And I recognize that you spoke about spirituality and spiritual wellness or our spiritual being in so much depth just at the starting of this conversation. That is something I do want to deep dive in. And before doing that, if I may, go back to the conversation you and I had in the beginning. And there was another very interesting thing that you said, It may be a bit of a digress, but I want to take that digression because you mentioned that when you are working with a patient, you don't just look at their medical history, which is typically what we are prepared for. When we go to a doctor, we're usually prepared with our medical history because those are the elements that make sense when we're looking at an ailment. You, however, said you look at their entire life history, including experiences that they've had from their childhood onwards and maybe even beyond. I would love to deep dive a little in that also, sir, and understand why, how, and how much of an impact does that actually have on our physical health today?
I think this is very important because again, if you again go back to spirituality, life is a continuum. It is not the sum total of one life.
Right.
Every life, every birth, whichever yoni it may be, is a teaching experience for us.
Love that.
So whatever has happened in the past, now it is very obviously almost impossible or very difficult to go back to previous births. People do that.
Right.
But the least you can do is to go back to the childhood history and how the child was brought up. You see, when a child is born, the child has a lot of things in their brain, a lot of feelings and emotions, which they must be able to exercise, must be able to experience. I'll give you some examples. All the feelings of, love.
Right.
The child wants to be, I won't use the word pampered, but the child wants an attachment. That is inherent in the child. So the child must get that love. The child must get those caresses and those expressions of love. The child will have some fear. The child has to experience fear. The child has to experience anger, curiosity, everything.
Right.
And of course play. Now if any of these gets suppressed, then as you can understand, suppression means that you are pressing down something which intuitively you could understand leads to depression later on in life. This is just one of the expressions.
Right.
So whenever these healthy feelings have been suppressed for a long time, the child doesn't know how they should be metabolized. The child does not know that. So the child, in order to make everybody in the surrounding happy, starts living with it.
Right.
Suppressing those feelings inside him. And these then later manifest as other diseases or complications in life. Autoimmunity being a very, very common disease occurring because of that. You have depression, you have autoimmunity, even cancer may occur because of that. Things like multiple sclerosis and so many other things can happen because of that. Now, there's of course a loose term given for that, and that is childhood trauma.
Right.
The childhood trauma also, I think, has two factors to it. One is real overt trauma. For example, if the child is taken away from the parents or something, or the child sees, divorce in the parents or other setbacks also. So that is an obvious trauma.
Right.
Then there are other traumas also which are not actually trauma. I mean, if you look at them as adults, because the child may perceive them to be traumatic, may not actually be so.
Could you give an example of what that could look like?
Yeah, like a child is looking for love. The parents are very busy. Perhaps both of them are working. They don't have enough time. They love the child all right, but they don't have enough time for the child.
Right.
The child misses that and doesn't show it initially. Initially, he may show it as, crying or maybe getting a little angry and all that. But later on, he sort of suppresses it. And this becomes traumatic to the child because the nervous system at that point is not well developed to be able to process it. So that becomes traumatic to the child. And these manifest as complication in later life. So I think it is absolutely imperative for a clinician to try to get as much of the history of the past as possible. And of course, if they are very deeply spiritual, they may get past life experience of the child also.
Right.
But that is not, I cannot say it is scientific because there is no way of proving it.
Fair. But you spoke about the childhood experiences.
Yes.
Let me use that term, childhood trauma. Those are still scientifically sort of accepted terminologies.
Correct.
And this is very, very deep because, one of the things that you said that there are some perceived traumas which we kind of categorize as trauma and they're understandable.
Yes.
But then the subtler nuances which a child may perceive as trauma, but, for us as an adult, we are able to reason and justify those pieces. That can actually open up a completely different Pandora's
Absolutely.
box.
Can I give you an example
Yes,
of this?
please.
There's a very, very well-known and a very learned doctor called Dr. Gabor Mate. He's written lots of books on this particular thing,
Got it.
in childhood trauma mainly, and he gives his own experience. He says that during the Second World War, he's from Hungary basically,
Got it.
and you know what happened to Hungarians and so many other people and Jews, I mean to say. So his mother, when he was very small, Gabor was very small, his mother, in order to save his life, gave him away to somebody else, which he perceived that my mother doesn't want me.
Right.
And this feeling remained throughout his life. And much later, around the age of 50 or 55 or something, he developed, or rather he was detected to have ADHD. He understands that, and that's the reason why he's gone into all this.
He could he could kind of put those pieces together.
Exactly.
Right.
So the mother did something good for the child.
True.
To save his life. But he perceived it differently.
Right.
And such things are very common.
Right, and this is, I think this is a great lens to look at things from. While of course from a child and a parent perspective, but even adults, very seldom do we realize that the perception of a matter can be so different and personal from person to person.
Correct.
And we're only looking at things from our particular lens.
Yes.
This is fantastic and food for thought, at least for me. I would want to deep dive a little bit in this because there are a lot of these different therapies that have come in for inner child healing. Is that something that you attach merit to?
I do. But I do understand that these therapies are good. They work also very well. But for a common clinician, I'm using the word common for the simple reason that the clinician could be anybody. It could be a physician, could be a surgeon, could be health advisor, healthcare worker. It could be anybody.
Right.
It may be beyond the purview of all clinicians to think about that. I think these sort of feelings and these sort of experiences come to us when we are like more spiritually inclined.
True.
If not, then most doctors will just sort of pass it off.
True.
But there are a lot of healers. These healers look into these aspects of it and they try to address these factors also. Psychologists also, I think, should, but I'm not very sure if they're all doing that.
Right.
Same with psychiatrists also.
True.
So unless and until you have people who are involved with functional medicine, which is what I'm practicing, they perhaps would be looking at these things.
Right.
But usually there are healers who take care of these aspects unless you yourself have an inclination for that.
Got it. And I think, you kind of beautifully put from a functional medicine perspective that life is a continuum.
Yeah.
It's not something that's happening in isolation in this given point in time. And you, again, just going back to another thing that you said, that most medical practitioners or healthcare practitioners look at not just the symptom or the problem in isolation, but also the human in isolation in that point in time. And I think it's beautifully put that, we ourselves, I think as a first step, should start recognizing that our life is a continuum. Yes. And it's not something that's happening to me today in isolation. So you did talk about functional medicine. And that was another thing that I was meaning to ask you, that somebody as senior as you, with so much experience in the medical sphere, what made you look at things from a functional medicine lens or a functional health lens?
Well, actually it goes back to the years of early 90s. I was working at the Scots Heart Institute and we were deep into mainstream medicine, as I would like to call it, operating day in and day out. We were very happy with that. But what struck me was that we were doing very successful surgeries. I'm a surgeon, by the way.
Right.
So it always sort of set me thinking that we are addressing the complication of a disease. Where does the disease come from? I felt we were not addressing that. At that time, preventive cardiology was in its infancy. And they were never addressing the root cause of the problem. They were only talking about cholesterol and things like that.
Right.
So I kept wondering, why is it happening? Why are we not addressing that issue? So at that point of time, when people were really not understanding what stress was, I started thinking on those lines that there has to be another factor. And I found practically all the patients seem to be stressed in some way or the other. That time, I did not know the word stress. But now going back to it, I understand that that was stress which was plaguing them. So I started wondering and started thinking of that. And that, I started learning to meditate. Was not very successful with it at that point of time. So I kept thinking on those lines. Gradually what happened was that, like seeking for this, I started learning, yoga. I started learning, took courses in naturopathy, Ayurveda, basically seeking something. And also at the same time, I was seeking as to who am I and what am I doing here on this earth. These sort of questions were sort of plaguing me.
Beautiful.
And one thing led to another. So after taking these courses, then I got initiated also into spirituality. I have a guru and whom I really respect and love. So all these put together, then I realized that once I started getting deeper into spirituality, I started understanding a lot of things. Not from books. If I read books, then I could sort of, read deeper into it, if you see what I mean. Because I feel that all the books we read, mainly spiritual or religious books, they have message at the surface, which everybody picks up.
Right.
But there's always something deeper than that.
I agree.
Unless and until you get to that point, you really cannot understand anything. The same thing applies to diseases also. So what we are seeing one manifestation of a disease. What actually caused it is not what we have been looking at. So unless and until we go to the root of our problem, I don't think we can actually correct it. So this is the long and short of everything. So that led me into energy medicine, and that led me into, even now, like I love these type of things, like light, energy and spirit and these sort of things.
That is superb. I think that is what is also something that initially fascinated me, when I heard you speak for the first time. And it's beautiful. So it was your spiritual journey, and you used a lovely word, seeking. So, you were a seeker, and that's how, along with your personal journey, this sort of opened up, this universe opened up for you.
That's right.
And you, I think it would be fair for me to say that along with being a senior medical practitioner, a surgeon and a cardiologist, you're also a healer of sorts. Because you're kind of looking at the human being as a whole, and you're looking at it from a spiritual lens.
Well, I won't like to call myself a healer because I'm not healing. I'm just, you see, it's like this. It sort of comes into me what I'm supposed to do, and it gets done. I'm just doing whatever,
So you're calling yourself a vessel of. So are you calling yourself the vessel of?
I don't even look at it like that. It's just that it has got to be done. It's being done. I'm just a sort of an instrument.
Superb.
Like Mother Teresa said, I'm just the pencil. I don't write.
I'm not the, right.
Yeah. I'm not writing, I'm just the pencil.
Right. Superb. Superb. I do want to go back a little into the childhood trauma and the sort of linear the experiences that we spoke about before moving forward, because we spoke about traumas, we spoke about sort of minor sort of nuances related to childhood experiences and trauma. So how, and I don't want to put this in a black and white sort of situation, but for people, and I think this might be coming from an individual space, but people who've had difficult childhoods, how does somebody, I've had a difficult childhood, I've had a beautiful childhood also, but difficult childhood also. Like you said, it's not necessarily just black and white. How does somebody like that approach this? Do we say, listen, we talk about genetics, epigenetics, but this is one of the biggest factors when it comes to experiences. How do we approach this saying, I know I've gone through something, and obviously it would have, had the impact that it would have had as a child, but as an adult, other than everything we spoke about, going to a healer or looking at inner child therapies, how do I approach it from taking an ownership of my health lens?
You mean who you go to, or how do
Yeah.
you know who you should contact
Yes,
for that?
I think first just kind of acknowledging and understanding, and even accepting that what you or me, let's say, as an individual perceived as trauma at a certain age was trauma. I think, acceptance also is very difficult sometimes, because, like you said, there are things that as adults or as society we've accepted or categorized as trauma. Those might be easier. The things that aren't necessarily. So for an individual, that journey of just acceptance first, how does one begin that? Second, having accepted, before it manifests into some sort of a disease, or even for people who it may have already manifested into some sort of a symptom, how do they step back from that and say, I want to go back and look at this sort of life journey of mine, and maybe start healing where it actually began?
Well, as I said earlier, that um, whatever I do or whatever messages I get, uh, what I'm supposed to do, basically again comes from the fact that uh, if if your inner self is seeking for something, like you said that you had some sort of a trauma and all that, so there could be, you could be one of those categories who are not really bothered about it. You were accepted and that's the end of the matter. The other person in you could be wanting to know why it happened and what can I do for it now. Now, when you start thinking on those lines, then you're automatically brought to someone who would either help you with that or take you forward on your journey for this. And you ultimately land up with the right person, and then when you get the right person, then you realize, well, yes, this is the person who can help me out with it. And that's where the whole story then starts. That's the way I look at it.
So it's like when you're seeking for something, it'll appear, or you'll get to the right.
It will appear. So your seeking has to be something good.
Right.
Because if you're seeking something bad, even the universe will give that to you also.
True.
But that is not what you want. So if your inner core is seeking something, like let's say your inner core is seeking the spirit, you will ultimately get somebody who will take you in that direction.
True.
You may or may not merge with spirit in the same birth, but you will progress on that. Same thing applies here. So firstly, depends on how you've taken it, how your inner core has taken it. Now, very often what happens is that this manifestation takes place much later on in life.
Right.
Even I've seen a person coming to me at the age of 70, something like that, with lots of issues, and had been seen by lots of other people also, psychiatrists, psychologists and all that. But for the first time, she blurted out what had happened to her. And then it all started. She hasn't come back to me. Well, it's up to her what she wants to do after that. But that is how these sort of things happen. So you will ultimately get somebody who can help you with it.
Right.
It may also mean that you might go to a number of people. But even that is experiential.
True. Absolutely.
You realize, well, this is not the right person for me, then you go to somebody else. Ultimately, you will land up with the right person.
Agreed.
And then the whole thing starts.
Agreed.
That is how it goes.
I think, talking from my personal journey, I absolutely agree and relate that, seeking, I've found many people until you find, or maybe, continue to seek.
Yeah.
So coming back to, because, we've spoken about spirituality, we've spoken about us being spirits so much, and how this kind of, at least from, if I may put it simply, becomes the fundamental or the foundation of our physical beings.
Right.
So, sir, what I gather is spiritual wellness, in your opinion, plays a very big role in everything that manifests in our lives physically. Is that a true summary of
I think this is absolutely true. It is true even if you are not really a spiritual seeker, or because for some people spirituality only means doing good, or there are many aspects to that.
Absolutely.
So even if that is one aspect of it, if you start doing good intentionally, even that is going to help you physically. If you, because spirituality is a number of levels, innumerable. Yoga talks of just these about 5-6 chakras and all that. But the fact is there are many more. So if you stick only to yoga, then you're sort of limited to a certain extent, because you go only as far as yoga can take you.
Right.
If you get to another spiritual teacher, he can teach you maximum up to the level where he's gone, right?
Fair.
But whatever level you go to, you are going to benefit from that. There's a reason there's so many methods of meditation. Some, one spiritual teacher may have benefited from that, so he teaches that to his, whoever he initiates. So that is how it works. So spirituality ultimately is going to benefit you.
Irrespective of...
Yeah, level will differ. If you're at a very, very, very deep level, then the entire wisdom is at your, is in you, and you realize that wisdom also. So that helps you even more than that.
Right.
So if you can actually imbibe that light and the sound and all that, then everything is vibrating at that level. Then you, in your meditation, you are vibrating at the same level as the Supreme Being. So if every single cell of yours is being perfused by that light, so you can imagine the result on you.
True.
On the other hand, if you reach the level of, let's say, the Sahasrara Chakra, as is the almost the ultimate abode of yogis,
right,
then at that level, you vibrate at that level, if you can reach that level. So it varies considerably. There's a very, very broad spectrum to this, depending on which level you belong to. Even if you are at level 1, which may be just wanting to do good and being happy and doing whatever you can for people, caring for people, even that is going to have a good effect on you, because there are a lot of scientific studies to show that when you do good for people, you're doing good for them, all right, but you're doing good for yourself also.
I was just going to refer to that. Absolutely. They say that kindness is something that you're actually feeding yourself.
Absolutely.
Right.
The only difference is that when you are doing it intentionally, then that is also sort of increasing your ego. That ego is preventing you from reaching at a higher level. But you're physically going to benefit out of that.
Right.
Even physically and even astrally you may be benefiting out of that. Not completely, but you will benefit.
You will benefit.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing it out of, the I or the ego
you will benefit,
aspect.
but more at a physical level,
Right.
less at a spiritual level. But benefit will be there.
Right. Now this is great. So I think, just kind of, again, trying to summarize this, we're saying that for an individual, irrespective of where you are or, how much of a seeker you are, just starting with something as simple as kindness or empathy will have the benefits in your physical being. And then, like you said, of course...
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
empathy,
please.
I think, is very, very important.
Yeah, I love to hear that, because I personally do think that that's something we can do a lot more with.
See, this empathy is important for anybody. I think it is especially important for doctors or health caregivers.
Right.
Because when a patient is coming to you, a client is coming to you, the first and foremost thing he wants is to be listened to and to be heard attentively. That's the first thing they want. Even if I cannot deliver much, even if I know that there's nothing I can do about it, but if I give them a patient hearing, that itself is a lot, because they unburden so much of their problems from inside them.
Right. That becomes the starting of the healing in itself.
Exactly. And therefore that comes from empathy.
True.
Now, in this day and age, like a telephone is a necessity, it is also an issue, it's also a problem. But patients call and they want to be listened to, they have minor little problems. They can't go to hospital for just small little things, they're having a headache. They just want to know whether they can take this medicine or not. Well, if our patient just respond to that, well, it's done so much for them. And this is just pure empathy and nothing else. It goes a long way in helping patients and people, if we can do that.
Yeah, and
it will also, I'm sorry, it will also come at a cost to you, aggravating your stresses also. But that empathy is important.
I assume that will take a lot, because I hear a lot of medical practitioners talk about how, there's a requirement for keeping a little bit of a distance in terms of maintaining their own peace of mind and their own space. So that disconnect, I think what you are saying is very true, that when we do go to an expert, just being heard can go such a long way. But wouldn't that take a huge toll on you?
Absolutely. But here the thing is that I believe in the term, you must try to practice what you preach. So if you are trying to help a patient manage his stress, you first have to learn to do it yourself.
Right.
And if you manage to do that yourself, and if you do get spiritually inclined, then another very important thing happens, which very few people really understand. And that is that when you keep progressing on your own spiritual path, then you are imbibing those vibrations.
Right.
Those vibrations, and light and these vibrations have it is a nature to spread. So when they are in you, whether you know it or you don't know it, they will spread out. And when they do, you are radiating that same type of thing. And the radiation is important to the person you are talking to,
Right.
or the patients you are dealing with. In fact, this has been one of my, my standard expressions. I'm a yoga teacher also as well. Also, so the people who've been learning from me, I tell them that when you are teaching, then your own vibration should be conveying that to the people you are teaching,
Right.
so that they can imbibe and improve more. So the bottom line I'm trying to say is that you've got to learn to manage stress yourself. Only then can you do that.
Then can, right.
It is a difficult task, but ultimately you start enjoying it. So when it becomes important that when you realize your own purpose in life, then it is not difficult at all. And the
That's beautifully said.
Purpose in
Yeah.
life, I think there are two purposes to life. One, to go back to from where you came.
Right.
There's a primary purpose, or you could say the inner purpose. And the other is what you are doing in life here. And what you're doing here is also helping the world.
Absolutely.
Through you.
Absolutely.
Whether you understand it or you don't understand it. So a lot of people, more than 99% people, feel that whatever doing in the world is their primary purpose. That is not the primary purpose, that is the secondary purpose.
Right.
But if you realize your primary purpose, then this becomes automatic. This works on autopilot then. Because whatever you're doing, you're not doing actually, it's being done. When it's being done, this also improves. So the lives of so many other people start improving. And you don't feel that you are improving them. They are being improved because their karmas and their destiny and all that.
So it's not feeding your ego because
Absolutely,
you're right.
absolutely. Yeah.
No, this is lovely. I think every layer that we are peeling is so profound, and it's
I'm
beautiful.
loving it.
and I completely do agree. I think that's something that I think I'm constantly aware of. That our primary purpose is to go back where we came from, and you're right. If most of us end up remembering that, then the secondary purpose just kind of becomes autopilot.
Absolutely.
And we're not worrying about, there was somebody asked me something that how do you deal with setbacks? And I said, through life I learned one thing, that everything I do here today, I feel like it's inconsequential, right? At the end of the day, when you know the primary purpose is that, and it is true for all of us. So I do agree. It's difficult to do so. I mean, having said this, I think I'm on my spiritual path. Like you said, there are layers, and those layers take, it's a journey of its own. So it's very easy for us to get stuck in this physical, the sort of, the universe that we've built around us. It's very, very easy for us to get sucked into those pieces which are stressors, and then we worry about the smallest things, and then the smallest things feed that stress cycle. Just taking a step back sounds very simple, but it can be the most difficult thing to do.
I agree with you, absolutely.
And that's why I want to ask you this, and if you're okay to share this, are there any practices, and they could be things that you're okay sharing, that people could maybe take away from, but practices that you do on a daily basis that helps you stay in touch with your spirit?
Oh yes, I do yoga every day, and my yoga starts with, generally yoga starts with warming up. My yoga starts with, first and foremost, some form of qigong, the tapping form, which is the easiest to do. So I do that for about 10 or 12 minutes. I may follow it up with a little bit of tai chi, which I'm learning.
Got it.
I'm not an expert in that.
Got it.
Then I do the warming ups. Then I do a full set of yoga.
Okay.
Which could be about, all told, about an hour and a quarter or so.
Super.
And that means some warming up, some asanas, asana lying down, both supine, prone, sitting asanas, standing asanas, then something like sarvang asana and all that, then pranayams.
Got it.
And my meditation mostly sort of continues throughout with that. So though yoga said that you meditate after the pranayama, but then you can do it together also.
Right.
But along with this, like when I'm doing all this, I'm focusing on my guru. rather than focusing on any chakra as is taught in yoga. So that is what I do.
Got it.
And what I tell people is that face yoga is something which is basically just tapping. So that is an excellent method of relaxing you. Takes just a few minutes. I have my own, very small little videos of that, which I share with patients.
Superb.
Then I have my own recording of Yoga Nidra, which is about 15 to 16 minutes, which I share with patients. If they want to go on that, I mean, if they do face yoga, if they want to do Yoga Nidra, they're most welcome to do it. So that's a guided sort of a thing which relaxes most of them. So this is what I generally share with patients, irrespective of what problem they have. Because mind-body techniques are extremely important for any healing.
True.
So this, then of course, when they are with me, then depending on how open they are, I'll tell them lots of things. Then I'll teach them visualization techniques. I know patients of mine like who corrected their hypertension with just visualization. So there are many techniques like this.
Got it.
Which depending on how much the patient is open to practice, I teach them as much as he wants. I also teach them chakra meditation if they want, because chakra meditation I teach not from the point of view of, not from the spiritual perspective, from the health perspective.
Got it.
Because each and every chakra is located at an anatomical point where certain organs are there. So when the chakra is balanced, those organs function very well. To give you an example, the root chakra, right at the base of the spine, that is important for all this because it is related to the earth element. So related to all the solid structures in the body, like the bones and the muscles and hair and teeth and all that. So anyone having problems related to that, if they meditate on that, they are likely to benefit from that.
Right.
I teach certain mudras also, because as in yoga, every mudra has some benefit. So if they have a thyroid issue, I'll teach them some thyroid mudras. If they have a spinal issue, I'll teach them some mudra related to the spine, things like that.
That's
which
lovely.
I share openly, freely. I mean, they're not charged extra for that or anything like that. It's just part and parcel of that, because I feel that just like the Supreme Being is always giving, taking nothing from us. So the least we can do is to at least give more than you get. This is what I believe in.
I know I've said this word too many times, but this is beautiful. What we'll also do, sir, is we'll link the links for the tapping and Yoga Nidra in the description below so the users can access it as well.
Absolutely.
This is lovely. If I may deep dive into a couple of things that you shared and talk a little bit about tapping and face yoga. You know, we read about this quite a bit on different spheres from different approaches. One, how easy is it for somebody to do? And what are the kind of benefits, you know, because you did talk about just relieving stress, but are there any other benefits that somebody can approach this for?
Yes. Actually, tapping tapping comes from Qigong, basically. It has been modified into psychology, psychotherapy also, and there the term uses EFT.
Right.
Emotional Freedom Technique.
Right.
This is a very, very good method of allaying your anxiety and all that, and for depression. There are many methods of doing it. I do a very simple one, just the tapping part of it.
Got it.
But they also include or add affirmations along with it. I personally don't believe in affirmations.
Got it.
I think the reason why I don't believe in affirmations is that I think it's like you fake it till you make it. And
it's exactly that.
I don't believe in that. So what I think is that the better route is to meditate and go along with that. But I also agree that those people who can't meditate, who are not inclined to towards the spirituality, I think for them perhaps it is all right to combine affirmations with this. For them it's okay. As I said, spirituality of any level is going to be of some benefit or the other to the patient.
True.
So it is very good for these things. Secondly, it is also good like if you're very tired. You come back home, you know, still your mind is in office and you are at home and lots of things are going on. You do this type of tapping and all that and you settle down.
Right.
Thirdly, a very, very important aspect of physiology is the vagus nerve. People don't talk much about it. It's coming in the news now.
At a very nascent stage.
The vagus nerve is an extremely long nerve. It goes from the base of the brain right to the base of the alimentary canal, that is the digestive canal. And on his journey, in his journey, it supplies branches to every single organ, right from the neck, the face, neck, right down to almost every organ. So every organ gets a supply from that.
Got it.
But the best part is that the supply from the brain to those organs is only like 9 impulses out of 10, 1 impulse out of 10.
Okay.
9 out of 10 are retrograde. So it's a two-way flow.
Got it.
So it's benefiting every organ. So no matter what disease you have in the body, whether it's a liver disease, whether it's a stomach disease, whether it is a cardiac disease, thyroid disease, whatever, if your vagus is in tone, it's going to benefit everything. And a well-toned vagus nerve stimulates what is known as the parasympathetic nervous system.
Right.
The parasympathetic nervous system is a rest and digest system. So the rest and digest system is important for your well-being. It is important for keeping you calm. It is important for, setting your neurotransmitters in action. So if you have a good vagal tone, then it does wonders for you. And tapping also stimulates your vagus nerve.
Got it.
So this is a very, 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 very important advantage of vagal tone. So there are many other methods of setting the vagus tone.
Are there any that people can do other than one is tapping? Is there anything else?
Anyone doing yoga properly is correcting his vagus nerve. Anyone, if you're into music, you listen to good music which is soothing for you.
Right.
You're setting a vagus nerve.
Right.
When you splash cold water on your face, you're setting a vagus nerve. When you gargle and a deep, hearty gargle, that sets your vagus nerve. So there are many methods of doing that.
And they're very doable methods. There's nothing out of the...
Meditation is a very good method. Pranayam is a very good method.
Right.
Especially the pranayam like Bhramri pranayam, Anulom Vilom pranayam. All of these are very good for your vagus nerve.
Right.
So I attach a lot of importance to the vagus nerve.
Right. And then just a couple of minutes of practice a day, I think also is a good start for somebody to start looking at.
The face yoga takes just about 6 minutes.
Superb.
5 to 6 minutes you can do the complete set of face yoga.
Great.
The face has so many nerves which are coming from the vagus nerve. So you tap those areas and those are acupressure points also.
Right.
So you know very well that acupressure points are those which are related to different organs in the body. So when you're tapping, those organs are getting stimulated.
Right. Right. I think this is a great starting point. I mean, for somebody who's not already on the journey of let's say, spirituality or even yoga, just starting with something as simple as face yoga or tapping with or without affirmations is a great starting point.
Yes.
And I like the example that you gave. You come back home from a stressful day just to get your mind calmed down or kind of, center yourself in that moment. I think it's
I do it every day when I'm back in the evening also.
To get yourself back to the moment.
Yes.
Yeah, superb. I think I'm going to start doing that also every evening. It's a great way to wind down. And I think, we talk about sleep issues so much, and it somehow becomes one of the biggest questions asked when we talk about health and wellness, in the biohacking sphere. Because there are just so many stressors, I think, which have become obstacles to sleep. Leaving lifestyle apart for a second, just doing something as simple as this after coming back home or after getting your work done could be a good starting point to put that in order.
Yes, and another very, very simple method which you can do for a good night's sleep. The moment you get up in the morning, now this is all based on light.
Right.
These are light therapies, which are very simple. When you get up in the morning, and at that time, when the sun is just rising, you just sit or stand in front of the sun with the eyes closed for about, say, 20 seconds, 30 seconds or so. Let the light filter into your eyes. Just 20 or 30 seconds. Don't look direct. Don't gaze directly at the sun. A little away.
Right.
And that what it does is it does away with the nighttime melatonin. Right. And it stimulates the production of cortisol, which keeps you awake.
Right.
At the same time, this infrared light, the near infrared coming into your eyes, is very important for on-site production of melatonin in the mitochondria. So now we know that melatonin, just 5% comes from the pineal gland. 95% comes from the infrared light from the sun, mainly the early morning light.
Okay.
And the evening light. So that sets the tone of your melatonin. So at around 9 o'clock at night, the melatonin kicks in. And that helps you get a good sleep at night.
Very interesting.
So the morning sunlight gives you infrared. The light from 10 to 12 o'clock when the sun is at its peak, that light gives you ultraviolet light, which is important for vitamin D production. And if you've exposed yourself to the early morning light, then that prevents you from getting excess of the ultraviolet in your body.
Right.
So people talk of, other complications because of that. So those can be circumvented if you've been exposed to the early morning light. And then the evening light. Evening light when the sun is setting. The orange or the red or whatever color you get at the time of sunset, that is sort of intuitively, setting you down, winding you down.
Getting your body ready for...
Yes. And again, that gives you some more infrared. So infrared is very important for that. Infrared is known for correcting so many problems, especially depression, certain cancers, autoimmune problems. So many things happen because of that.
I'm glad you brought this up because this is something I wanted to discuss. And you rightly said that all of the dialogue around UV light somehow has taken generations almost now away from sunlight. We've started becoming scared of sunlight when it's literally the light that gives us life. Now, very beautifully said that you start your day, go get your early morning exposure so that you are away from the UV rays, and then the sunset. Now, because we're talking about sunlight,
just a word of caution here.
Yes.
A lot of people tend to think that if they're sitting indoors with the window pane,
yes,
the light coming from the window pane, generally the type of windows which are being made these days are energy efficient. So they prevent the incoming of infrared rays.
Got it.
So therefore it's better to be out in the sun.
Out there.
It could be in the balcony, it could be in the garden or whatever, whatever is convenient to you.
Yeah, literally just be like sunbathe.
Yes.
In the morning and in the evening.
Morning sun, you don't, you feel it as warmth. Infrared light is felt as warmth.
Right.
So you could be wearing your clothes, you will still get it.
Got it.
Unlike the ultraviolet. Ultraviolet will not penetrate
not
clothes.
cross through.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, sorry, you were saying something.
No, just to sort of completing this first, I think even just kind of doing a morning walk outdoors and getting the morning sun, people can combine, people who are rushing for time can always combine two activities, but just getting the morning sun on your body is an important start.
For those people, what I recommend is, and which I do myself also, is that if you have access to natural surfaces, you do the light part, you walk barefoot on the grass or gravel or something like that. So that gives you additional advantages.
Right.
Because, this infrared is also picked up by plants and leaves and flowers and all that.
True.
And they radiate it back to you. So that is one advantage.
Got
so if you're walking on grass, you're also getting infrared from there. Plus walking on barefoot on the earth also gives you extra electrons. So extra electrons again are important for your mitochondria. So you could combine the sunlight, you could combine the walk and walking barefoot on grass or something like that, which is going to help you. But do not walk on artificial surfaces.
Right, which is what we end up doing.
Also.
Right.
It can be the beach also.
Right, so something that we popularly talk about as grounding.
Grounding, absolutely. Yes. So you can combine all these together.
True. And I think just a couple of minutes out there can be extremely beneficial to set the tone of the day.
Yes.
And since we're talking about sunlight, I wanted to talk about light therapy. You did mention it now also, and you mentioned it earlier, how our body absorbs the infrared light and it actually works at a cellular level and mitochondrial health. Could you shed a little bit more light on this?
Yeah, there are certain light therapies also which we know of.
Right.
There are two types of them. One specifically for cancers. I'm not going into that right now. But you can just buy an ordinary infrared lamp, which is easily accessible.
Right.
It's very inexpensive. And expose yourself to that. So the thing to do is you buy that and then every day for about half an hour, keep it at your back. And at a comfortable distance, because the distance, if it is too close, it may burn the skin.
Warm, right.
If it is too far, it may not be effective. So keep it at a comfortable distance for about half an hour. So that way the back muscles are absorbing this infrared and you know that the whole body is interconnected, everything is interconnected. So the entire body gets bathed in that infrared light. That is one way of doing it. Then now of late infrared panels are also available.
Right.
Which are a little expensive, about 35,000 rupees or so.
Right.
So those can also be used. Then there are certain combinations also. Like some combine infrared with magnetism and certain other things also, like the Comra type of light. These can also be used depending on whether the person can afford those or not.
Got it. But something as simple as a infrared lamp, which is, like you said, very inexpensive, just sitting with
effective.
it is quite effective. because that's something I do almost every day, as we call it red light therapy. But that's pretty decent for somebody to incorporate every day.
Yes, you can do that. Then in cancer therapy also, they have different types of things. They have photodynamic therapy, sonophotodynamic therapy, lots of other things which are being done. I don't know whether they've been being done in India or not, but they are part and parcel of certain regimes of those people who are healing or treating cancers.
Got it. That becomes therapeutic in nature.
Yes.
So not deep diving into that, I think talking about the wellness piece, this is something anybody can just purchase off of online and start doing it every day.
Quite
so
right.
Summarizing light therapy from an actionable perspective, one very simple thing to do is get your morning sunlight exposure. And like you said, combining that with things like grounding or walking barefoot on actual ground and not our homes or ceramic ground, and being out there, getting sunlight again when the sun is setting, and just picking up a simple infrared lamp and exposing yourself to it for about 30 minutes every day.
Yes. Something else you can also do at night, avoid the incandescent lights.
Right.
Avoid the white light, which is very bad for you.
Right.
You can have a red or a yellow
bulbs,
but at the lower part of the room. Something like that.
Right. Like the night lamps that we grew up having.
Exactly,
right.
Exactly. So if they are on at night before you go to sleep, like in the evening, and you switch off the white light and all that, that is very conducive to good sleep.
Right.
The room being completely dark also.
Right. And so there's a joke, I'm going to share this joke with you, but when we just got married, my husband and I, and that's when I was learning about light therapy.
Yeah.
And literally 2 days in, I changed all the bottom lamps, and I said, okay, 8 o'clock, all the lights are going off and the red light is coming on. So we had known each other for quite some time. So there was a joke, he used to take pictures of the house and send it to my parents, and like, this is not what I signed up for. but so I kind of, from my personal experience, recognized that not only helping with sleep, but it also really helped in calming down. Just getting rid of the blue lights and the the really bright lights in the evening, or let's say after sunset, did help in calming down quite a bit as well. I think just the atmosphere in the house becomes a lot more calmer.
That is there, of course. And then when melatonin sets in,
right.
Melatonin has so many advantages. It's only now that we are realizing that. It's so good for so many cancers, for thyroid problems, autoimmune problems. Melatonin is an excellent molecule. And people think that it is a sleep molecule. It not really is. It actually sets the circadian rhythm and is an extremely important antioxidant.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that it's also an antioxidant.
Yeah.
And so a lot of supplementation around melatonin has now come in.
Yes.
Is that something that you recommend?
Well, melatonin should come from the right source and should not, right source, I mean it should be as far as possible from a company which manufactures nutraceuticals.
Right.
And the dose should be titrated. Don't jump to a high dose immediately. You could start with a small dose. Most people respond very well to just 3 milligram of that.
True.
Some need to start with a little less, like some people advocate starting with 1 milligram.
Got it.
But I'm not aware whether 1 milligram is available in India or not.
Unfortunately not.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people that do well with like a 1 milligram, so I break the capsules.
Well, there's another form which is a sublingual form. The sublingual, I've not found as effective as the capsule 3 milligram
Got
form.
it.
I don't use it myself, but this is the feedback I get from patients. So you can start with 3, some people take 6, some people go to 10. During COVID period, I was advising a much higher dose.
Okay.
10, even 20 milligram.
Oh wow, okay.
For cancers, up till 20 milligram has been advised because they say that there's no toxic level of melatonin.
That's very interesting.
It's a very good, only thing is some people may have some nightmares and all that.
Got it.
Which is not a very common thing to happen, but can happen.
Got it. But very interesting to know there are no toxic levels as such. So whatever works for you, and you can kind of gradually take that up. But again, everything you just shared right now to get your natural melatonin levels up also is, I think, the starting point.
Yes. Which is called on-site melatonin.
On-site.
That's the word used for it.
Got it.
Because it is produced in the mitochondria, acts at the mitochondrial level, and that's it.
Very interesting.
The other one is the circulatory one, which is from the pineal gland.
What? Got it. And you said 95% is actually on-site.
95% is on-site melatonin.
Very interesting.
There a lot of research has been done on this.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Any other light therapy that you'd recommend for people to incorporate?
I think this is it for the general public. The other thing is that you can do these eye exercises, which are taught in yoga as Netra Suraksha, which are all, first moving the eyelids up, down, then in different directions. So these are also very good for you, which you can do in the when the sun is up in the morning. You can combine what I already mentioned with these. These also I do every day. So these are also very effective and very helpful for the eye muscles.
Super. And I think, is it true to say that eyes are the biggest receptors of light? Eye and skin.
Absolutely.
So
because when you get light, when the light comes in, then through the light, gut and certain other organs in the body, the light is imbibed, then it sets the tone for so many other things in the body. So the eye is very important for all that.
For all that, yeah. So kind of combining this with that would be a great idea.
Yes, yes.
Superb. So continuing on elemental therapy, if we move on to something else that has become recently popular, which is water therapy.
Yeah.
So would love to hear your thoughts on water therapy. Specifically, something that there's been a lot of dialogue around is structured water. So even machines have now come in which say that we can structure water for you, so it can help you heal. Yeah. What's your opinion on this?
No, I'm fully for it, and I advocate the same. The reason is that you see, the studies related to structured water go back to a scientist called Dr. Pollack. He's written a beautiful book on this. And he has mentioned that so far we used to understand that there are only 3 types of water. That is vapor, liquid and ice.
Right.
But this fourth form of water, which he calls structured water or EZ water, is a different type of a thing, in the sense that firstly it is important because this is part and parcel of the mitochondria. The mitochondria actually produce this as a result of the reaction which are taking place in the mitochondria. And this is conducive to good health. Our body needs structured water, as they call it. The reason is that it is negatively charged, and it has a number of properties. It can reduce inflammation. It can help in the proper metabolism of the entire body. So many other things happen because of this structured water.
Got it.
And this structured water, there are a number of ways of making it. The natural structured water comes from vortices or spring water, or let's say the Ganges water, right where it originates from. That will be structured water.
Got it.
Water coming down as rain before falling to the ground is structured water, EZ water. Similarly, if you add some tulsi to the water you're going to drink, if you add some chia seeds to it, if you juice any fruit juice, then you are creating structured water. This structured water is far superior to the other water which we drink.
Right.
So this is a lot of advantages. I definitely advocate it. And now they have a wand which they manufacture, which you take the water in a glass, fill it up, and then stir it for about 30 seconds and drink it. It becomes structured water.
Right. Yeah,
so structured water is far superior to other water, and it is this structured water which is important for the heart, for all the systems in the body. So if you can have that. Another very common way of making it is that if you fill up glass bottles with water, put them in the sun for about 8 hours. There's a specific name given to it in Ayurveda. And then in the evening, don't refrigerate it, and then drink this water. So it becomes a structured water. White glass bottles, kept in the sun for 8 hours.
Just expose it to
the whole thing changes in that.
Very interesting.
The book is beautiful.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And as an extension to that, something else that we've been talking about, which is water memory. And as an extension to that, there's this practice that I've imbibed, which is earthen pot water, just kind of playing a chant around it or chanting with it, and then having that. Do you think there's any benefits to doing something like this, and your views on water memory?
Absolutely. See, just like a spiritual person is radiating his spiritual vibrations, even unknown to himself, radiating to others. Same way, if you have good thoughts in your mind, you can transmit them onto the water, because water imbibes all that. And of course, we now know from that experiments, which actually first was described by an Italian, Ben Venete or something like that was his name. I'm sorry, should be excused for that. Then of course the Japanese scientists mentioned this, because you could form different crystals. When his thoughts were good and they were passed on to the water, like when they're feeling of love and kindness and all that, then there are beautiful crystals which are forming.
Right.
But when there are thoughts of hate, then you got a totally different thing altogether. So definitely it helps. It is just like this. When a spiritual guru is transmitting his vibrations, that's why he gets the third eye open. That's the way it happens. His own spiritual vibration coming in. And a body is predominantly water.
Right.
So obviously it has a great relationship with all these type of things, all these good thoughts and feelings and all that. So this is one way of feeling happy and all that.
And I think external, internal both, because like you said, our body is predominantly water.
Yeah.
And if water has memory, then it's also something that'll impact us internally.
Yes.
And that's why our thoughts and the words that we speak have such a profound impact on our health.
Yes.
And just as an extension, while you were describing this, I was just thinking that without thinking about it, I mean, in households, we obviously have water stored everywhere, when we're drinking water, like bottles kept everywhere. And if there's a negative environment of, quarrel or conflict, I'm sure that then that's something that's going to get carried by the water that we are having. So it's not just in the bout of that conflict, but that's sort of energy that we are radiating around our house in so many other ways.
Absolutely. So we go back to the same thing, everything is energy.
Right.
So energy can be good, energy can be bad.
Right.
So anything, you meet people who give you good energy without knowing it. You want to be with them because you're gaining so much out of them.
True.
Then you also meet people in life who are not so positive. They may be very negative. They may be evil for that matter also. You don't want to be with them.
True.
This is the reason, because your body picks it up immediately.
Right.
Your mind may not, but your body picks it up. Your heart picks it up. So because of that, you don't want to be with them. Therefore, obviously, water is going to pick up all types of energies.
True.
We are picking it up, everything is picking it up. Animals understand that.
Right.
Everybody, trees understand that, flowers understand that.
Yeah, flowers
Everything
flourish
understands.
or don't,
Yes,
depending on,
yes.
yeah. True.
Absolutely.
And you're right. I mean, so many times you meet somebody and, there's no logical reason for not liking the person, but then you just have that
don't want to be
you
in
just
their
don't want to,
company.
yeah.
Also go back to an earlier birth. You
True.
might have had a bad experience or something may have happened because of that. You don't want to be with that person.
True. And the opposite. Sometimes you meet somebody and you just feel like you've known them for so long that, there's a connection that hits off because...
Yes, that is also very common.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is lovely. And I think just one more question for you to kind of summarize this fantastic conversation that we've had. If there was one thing, and I know, we've spoken about such profound things that this may not do justice, but one thing that you would recommend anybody on their health journey to start with, that the first step?
I think the most important thing is to try to align yourself with the circadian rhythms of nature. That will correct everything. That translates into going to bed at the right time,
Right.
eating your dinner at the right time, getting up at the right time, doing these light therapies and all that, and eating just twice or maximum 3 times a day. 3 times a day is perfectly fine, but eat at the time as per nature wants it to be.
Right.
So like in the morning, your breakfast, you should have some breakfast, but not a very heavy one. Just enough to get you going. Have your lunch, say around, if possible, around 12 o'clock or so, because that is the pitta time.
Right.
And then something for 5 o'clock, you may not have anything. And then finish dinner by 6 or 7 o'clock, before the sun sets. So this way you're going to correct most of the things. A good sleep, exposure to light, good thoughts,
Right.
eating at the right time, not eating the wrong type of food, eating the food which is conducive to your health. Now, I think it is important to understand that there is no diet which is good or bad. We must understand that. The diet must conform to our constitution. And our constitution conforms, we relate to nature.
Right.
So some of us have a very dry type of I don't mean a personality. I mean dry skin and dryness in us.
Right.
Some have more moisture. Some have a more, affected by cold. So the food also must relate to that.
Okay,
which is
that's
not very easy to do, but
right.
I'm also learning on this basically. So if you can conform in all these things, if you get the circadian rhythm, you're fine.
Superb. I definitely want to do another deep dive conversation in this, because this is very interesting to look at and approach food that conforms to your constitution.
Yeah.
I think this is very interesting, and would love to do a full conversation on this.
Okay.
But to summarize, the starting point that you mentioned, and I think this becomes very easily actionable, is just aligning to your circadian rhythm. So getting the morning sunlight exposure, combining it with all the activities that you spoke about, sleeping on time and eating on time. And interestingly, one of the big pieces you spoke about is having your dinner around sunset or before sunset. Simple thing can make a huge difference, because I know a lot of us are...
Hydration is very important.
Right, absolutely. And we did talk about water therapy. So, that does become a big part of it.
Right.
Great. This was extremely wonderful, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.